Don't miss the awesome Naruto stories my sister creates. Her last channel was hacked, so to stay in the loop, please subscribe to her new channel. It would mean a lot to her, and you won't regret it. Hello to all lovers of lemon scenes. I invite you all to my boosty so you can watch your favorite Naruto What If stories in complete comfort. A subscription to Naruto Lemon, the first video with a full lemon, is already on my boosty channel. Dare! And the Jounin and Shinobi began to whisper. Everyone wanted to see this fight. It's not every day you see a fight between the sons of Minato and Fugaku. Some began to place bets on who would win this fight. The biggest bet was on Menma, because he is the son of the Hokage and the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Everyone knew that the Hokage's son was the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails and treated him normally. If it weren't for Minato, Menma would have been humiliated. The residents restrained themselves so as not to kick or hit him or harm him in any way. Each of them knew who Menma's mother was. Kiyomi Uchiha was a strong kunoichi. Behind her was a career in ANBU. In the clan, the girl was considered one of the most brilliant shinobi. Kiyomi graduated from the academy at 12 and then began working for the ANBU unit. She even had the nickname Red-Eyed Demon. She never spared her enemies and killed very cruelly. That's why no one looked at Menma askance. The residents put on fake smiles in front of Menma and pretended that they were interested in communicating with him. Only representatives of the Uchiha clan bet on Sasuke. In the clan, Sasuke was also considered a genius, but not as much as Itachi and Shisui. Sasuke's name faded at the sight of these two geniuses of their generation. Itachi's younger brother always wanted to surpass him and almost never left the training ground. Sasuke graduated from the academy with the best scores, but he was not ahead of his brother. In life, Sasuke was a kind and cheerful person who loved helping older people. But in battle, he turned into a cold and ruthless ninja. Wow, how I was waiting for this moment. I always wanted to fight you, Sasuke, said the brunette with blue eyes. I was also waiting for this day to punch you in the face, Dobe. Sasuke chuckled and a smile appeared on his face. At his words, Menma burst out laughing, and they started to descend, knocking their fists together. Who do you think will win? Asked a girl with brown hair and eyes the color of blood, looking at two teenagers. Well, I think Menma will win, and compared to Sasuke, he looks stronger and bigger, said a man with a goatee, smoking a cigarette. What do you think, Kakashi? They are both strong ninjas. So, I can't say who is stronger at the moment. It would be better to watch the fight, Kakashi replied. All this time he was not taking his eyes off the pages of his book. Asuma and Kurinai nodded silently and grinned, due to the fact that Kakashi always read this obscenity in public. Having gone downstairs, the two friends stood on opposite sides. Minato looked at his son with pride and believed that Menma would win without any problems. It was not for nothing that he trained him from the age of 5, and when he was away, Menma was trained by elite ninjas and his mother Kiyomi. The examiner looked at the two confident ninjas, cleared his throat, and gave the go-ahead for the fight. The Uchihas immediately activated their eyes and rushed at each other. Sasuke wanted to punch Menma in the face, but he dodged to the left and swung his fist right at Sasuke's chin, but Fugaku-san stopped Menma's fist in time with his palm. Scarlet eyes glowed in their eyes, with 3 tomo. The two friends tried to catch each other in a genjutsu, but nothing worked. Their taijutsu was uniform, they moved quickly for their age, each managed to block blows and counterattack. But if you look closely at Sasuke's face, you will see that it is not easy for him to block blows. Menma's blows were strong and accurate, because it was not for nothing that the son of the fourth was trained by Tsunade Senju herself, one of the legendary Sannin of Konoha. Dodging a direct blow, Sasuke jumped up and wanted to strike with his foot to the head, but Menma, quickly reacting, caught his opponent's leg and threw it away from him. "And you have become stronger since our last battle," Fugaku's son said, getting up. "That fight was just a training fight. And now we are fighting seriously." Topic. "So get it together if you don't want me to kick your dirty ass." Namikaze Uchiha shouted back to him. Sasuke just snorted and began making seals. Menma repeated after him. The Uchihas blew out 2 fireballs. Sasuke's technique did not last long and Menma's huge ball simply swallowed his opponent's attack. Sasuke had to duck to avoid being hit by the technique. "What do you say to that?" Taking out a katana, the purebred Uchiha shouted. "Chidori sword," Sasuke said and was about to thrust it into Menma, but he dodged the blade. Menma was next to Sasuke and immediately kicked him in the stomach, causing Sasuke to slam into the wall. Namikaze once again wanted to hit his friend, but he disappeared in a white haze. "A clone?" Menma asked himself. Sasuke's voice came out of nowhere. Turning his head, Menma saw Sasuke blow out 9 large fireballs. And having made several seals, he shouted, "Kato, raging wall." Namikaze blew out a large wall of fire, which began to protect the user. After destroying all of Sasuke's balls, Menma sent an entire wall of fire at him. Itachi's brother had to jump off the wall. The 4th son's attack destroyed the upper part of the wall. Sasuke and Menma, with wild smiles, ran at each other. They held their weapons in their hands. The sound of metal was heard throughout the area, and sparks from the impact of the katanas were visible. Their fight was like a dance. They moved very beautifully and gracefully. Making a lunge, Sasuke wanted to strike with a katana in the leg area, but Menma managed to block. Sasuke wanted to do something else, but Menma quickly grabbed him by the wrist. Pulling Sasuke towards him, Namikaze hit his stomach with his knee and Sasuke went flying several meters. Sasuke was about to stand up when Menma appeared in front of him and said, "Don't get up, otherwise I will." He pressed the katana to his throat, making an unambiguous hint. "Dobe, you lost again." "Yes?" "Now we'll see," Sasuke said, and electric discharges began to flow through the Uchiha's body, which is why Menma had to throw away his katana and move away from his friend. "Raitun, Chidori beam," the Uchiha said and his hand glowed with lightning, creating a beam that headed towards Menma. "Kato, fireball." Having blown out a small ball, the Hokage's son relaxed a little. But what happened next surprised Namikaze. With one swing, Sasuke cut his technique in half and the beam quickly flew towards Menma and pierced his shoulder. "That's it, Menma, the battle is over. You won't be able to get up, your body is completely paralyzed," said Fugaku's son. "No. I won't lose like this." And closing his eyes, he concentrated his chakra in the abdominal area. Sasuke just shrugged and began to approach Menma. When there were a few meters left, a very powerful and burning chakra flew out from Menma, causing the air to become heavy. Orange chakra swirled around Menma and rocks swirled. Heiei immediately realized what was happening and wanted to stop the fight, but seeing the Hokage's hand gesture, he stopped. "Come on, Menma. Show them all your strength. You are the future Hokage and you have to prove it," Minato thought, looking at his son. Menma grabbed Sasuke by the collar and sent him face first into the wall. Their battle lasted for half an hour. When Menma took some of the fox's chakra, he began to completely dominate his opponent. All of Sasuke's techniques used flew away from Kato Menma very quickly. Namikaze didn't even use all his techniques, he didn't fight at full strength the whole time. He wanted to see the full power of his friend. And he simply defended himself or avoided the techniques. And he pretended that it was hard for him. From the looks of it, Menma wasn't that tired, but Sasuke was in bad shape. He was covered in bruises and wounds. Brother Itachi realized that he didn't have much chakra left. He wanted to end the battle with one of his strongest techniques. Sasuke and Menma managed to destroy the ceiling of the tower. Blowing a small fire into the sky, he covered his hand with lightning. Everyone looked at Sasuke in bewilderment, his actions were not clear to everyone. But Kakashi looked attentively at his student. He knew Sasuke would never do such an illogical thing. The same Menma did not understand anything. Clouds appeared in the sky and the sounds of thunder were heard. Seeing and hearing this, the shinobi became a little wary. "Is this really your new technique?" thought the copy man. Raising his hand up, Sasuke sent a beam of lightning into the clouds. And he began to form his dragon. Menma, just in case, created 3 clones. "I am everything." Having said this, a large dragon appeared in the sky. "Well, Menma, are you giving up? This is your last chance." "What more?" Stretching out his hand, his clones began to create a Rasengan, and then sounds began to be heard. The Rasen Shuriken glowed in Namake's hand. "Well, let's finish the battle with one attack." "Yeah. Disappear with the thunder." "Kirin." The Uchiha shouted and sent the technique to Menma. Rasen Shuriken. And simply threw it at the blue dragon. When these techniques collided, they created a small black sphere that immediately exploded. The shinobi and Hokage stood up to protect the genin. The tower was all cracked, the roof was completely gone. But no one was injured after the technique. Because of the rising column of dust, everyone began to cough. Using the element of wind, Gecko blew away all the dust. He was almost choking on dust now. Sasuke lay unconscious under the rubble. Menma stood there, breathing heavily, his right arm cracked from using the Rasen Shuriken. From the balconies the joyful cries of shinobi were heard as they placed bets. Looking at his friends, Kakashi smiled with one eye. And so, Menma Namake's Uchiha wins the last battle, the examiner pronounced the verdict. Minato patted his son, and the medics came running to Sasuke and took him away. Nobody wanted problems with Fugaku. Having brought the room back to normal, Minato asked them all to line up. "Congratulations to everyone who passed this stage." The 4th began his speech. "But for those who did not pass the qualifying stage, do not be discouraged, I will advise you to train more and next time you will be able to pass the Chunin exam. The 3rd stage will begin in a month. Today you have learned all the abilities of your opponents and you have time to train more and relax." "Who will be our opponents?" The blonde asked the most interesting question. "You will find out your opponents at the 3rd stage," Namake's answered. Everyone began to quietly leave. Akatsuchi ran to the hospital to check if Kuratsuchi was okay. POV Kurama. "How much longer will I be sealed? How everything infuriates me. Damn you, Sarutobi, for Shinigami to punish you. I would understand everything if they sealed me into Kushina's son, but not into an Uchiha. How I hate these pathetic Uchihas. I always knew that they were nothing without eyes. I've been watching my Jinchuriki for 14 years now. I get angry when I see the face of the damned Uchiha. I remember how the impudent guy tried to take me, one of the strongest bijou in Genjutsu, but the boy nothing worked. I want to kill Menma and his parents, and destroy Konoha at the same time. But this backbreaker can somehow take some of my chakra. This is what infuriates me wildly. I'm sure this is Minato's tricks, no one else can do it. Brr, how all this water annoys me, I can't even take a normal nap. Even Mito's subconscious was much better, but this turkey has some kind of sewage system. Not a grateful boy, I give him chakra, but he can't change his subconscious. When I'll break out, I'll definitely kill him." The end. POV. Lying on its front paws, the monster with 9 tails thought, and its eyes were red with an elongated pupil. During his entire stay on this cursed land, Kurama respected several people. The first were the sons of Kaguya. For Kurama, Hagoromo was a father, because he was the one who created him. The second was the youngest son of the Sage of Six Paths. Remembering Azura, Kurama chuckled. They were very good friends. Only with Azura did Kurama do all his dirty tricks. Next up were Akira Uzumaki and Isao Uzumaki. He was familiar with the first one, during Hagoromo. As he remembered, Akira was the first Uzumaki and one of the strongest. Akira could easily take out all the bijou without straining. Kurama sometimes thought that Akira might stand up to his father. He met Isao in his world. When he found out that someone was caught in his summons, Kurama wanted to kill him, but Isao suppressed him with chains. Then he gave the go-ahead to sign the contract because he was able to defeat him. Only later did he learn that he was Akira's son. It's just that in recent years, he hasn't received any news from Hizo. Because he is sealed, he cannot communicate with his foxes. He had another reason to get out of here. He clearly felt chakra, which was very familiar to him. Kyubi wanted to see this man. He felt this chakra back on October 10th during the attack on Konoha, only then it was weak. But he could not understand from whom exactly this chakra came. Menma appeared and pulled him out of his thoughts. Well, hello fox. I came to visit you, the Uchiha said, approaching the cage. Kyubi instantly went wild when he saw his Jinchuriki. Oh, you pathetic little man, Kurama growled and hit the bars. The blow was so powerful that even Menma was sent flying. Go away! Shouted the fox. Come closer to me, I'll tear you to pieces. The Uchiha just chuckled and walked a little closer to the cage. If you wanted to kill me, you would have done it long ago. You don't have the strength to hit me. You're just a stupid creature who should only listen to the Uchiha. The son of the fourth mocked Biju. The Nine-Tails was infuriated by his words. Some pathetic person dared to talk to him like that. Kurama began to beat his tails against the cage. He wanted to get to Menma. How you piss me off. Kyubi shouted at his entire subconscious, which is why Menma had to cover his ears. Huh, are you calling me pathetic? You should look at yourself. Your behavior is simply terrible. I thought you knew how to restrain your emotions, but in fact you are behaving like a hysteric. Ov Uchiha. Yes, I love you, the fox thundered and hit the cage with his paw. I promise you, when I break out, I will destroy your pathetic family, and I will personally torture you. Only in your fantasies, fox. The Uchiha said in a mocking tone. I wanted to kind of thank you for taking your chakra. If it weren't for her, I might have lost. It would be better to lose and die there. Nine-Tails answered angrily. Well, if I die, you die too. That's why I can take your chakra. This means that I am saving your life, the half-breed grinned. Oh, you scoundrel. This is all my chakra. You understand that if you take more than is allowed, I will take over your body, Kurama growled, getting even angrier. I won't get to that point. I think I have to go. Otherwise they're waiting for me in the real world, Menma said and, turning around, began to walk towards the exit. Kurama let out a roar and glared at Menma with hatred. The Uchiha stopped in front of the door and looked at Kyubi. Remember fox. Wait for the day when I come with new eyes and then you will become completely mine and your strength will be mine too. Now live in fear and be afraid of me. The Hokage's son finally shouted and left his subconscious. Kyubi growled at the top of his voice. Naruto wanted to get up, but something heavy prevented him from doing so. He turned his head to the right and saw Kushina buried in his hand, and her leg was thrown proprietorially over the guy's legs. Naruto decided to close his eyes again and drift off to sleep. He woke up because his nose smelled a delicious smell from the kitchen. He put on his pants and, bare-chested, went to the kitchen, where his girlfriend was already in charge. He went downstairs and saw Kushi wearing only a black t-shirt and black panties that did not hide her figure. Naruto quietly crept up from behind, and his arms wrapped around the girl's waist and she shuddered. Naruto kissed her neck. "Hello, darling," the guy said, kissing the girl. "Hello, Naru," the girl greeted her boyfriend, moaning a little. Naruto didn't immediately notice the many delicious dishes on the table. Uzumaki thought that today was some kind of holiday. "Kushi, why did you cook so much? I won't eat all of this. Or are we having a holiday?" Naruto asked. Kushina stopped cooking and turned to face the guy. The girl looked at him like he was the last moron. "Naru, have you forgotten? Your friends went through the qualifying stage today," Kushina said. "Oh, that's right," he realized and hit himself on the head. "How could I forget? Heh, we need to hurry, otherwise my little sister will be offended," Naruto thought. "Naru, I wanted you to bring your friends to visit today. I wanted to get to know them better. And it's not just that I prepared a lot of food. You will be happy to celebrate their passage to the next stage, right?" the girl asked. Naruto was touched by Kushina's actions and hugged her tightly. "Kushi, why, I adore you," the guy said and absorbed the aroma of her hair. Throwing on his outerwear, Naruto ran out of the house and headed towards the exit of the block. Along the way, Naruto noticed strange looks from representatives of the Uchiha clan. "Why are they looking at me like that?" Uzumaki asked himself. Meanwhile, Kushina dressed more decently. She was wearing the kimono that Naruto bought her and the clan crest was visible on the back. Her hair was tied as usual, which gave her more beauty. Having prepared the last dish, she laid everything out very beautifully and began to wait for the guests. Luckily for her, someone knocked on the door. Somehow they came quickly, Uzumaki thought. Before opening the door, Kushina looked in the mirror to see if she looked normal. Approaching the door, she turned the knob. Her friend was standing on the threshold with a cake, and Fugaku was nearby. Seeing her friend, Uzumaki was surprised, because she did not expect her to come. "Hello, Mikoto, why did you come?" Kushina asked. "Hi friend. We have come to congratulate you. We're glad you found your person," and winked at her friend. Kushina became nervous. She was aware that Mikoto knew who Naruto was to her. "If she knows that we are together," Kushina lowered her head, and her face flushed with shame. Seeing her friend's panic, Mikoto lowered her head and whispered in her ear, "Don't worry, I didn't tell anyone about your relationship. I'm glad that you found a person who will love you sincerely." Kushina nodded in gratitude and let them into the house. Uzumaki did not pay attention to the head of the Uchiha clan. All this time, Fugaku seemed to be devouring Kushina with his eyes. Her outfit fascinated the Uchiha. He wanted to pounce on her and do obscene things to her. He hoped that this scoundrel would not be in the house. Kushina escorted them to the kitchen. The Uchihas were surprised at how much food there was on the table. "Kushina, are you waiting for someone else?" Mikoto asked. Yes, Naruto's friends should come today," Uzumaki answered. Mikoto nodded in understanding and, turning her head towards her husband, asked Fugaku to get out of here. They were going to talk about women's things. Fugaku reluctantly agreed. The man was going to talk to Uzumaki. After her husband left, Mikoto looked at her friend with a look that showed that she wanted to know everything in detail. Kushina began to tell her story with Naruto. "How is he in bed?" the Uchiha asked with a sly smile. We haven't done this yet," and waved her hands in front of Mikoto's face. Friend, you definitely don't know how to lie. Almost the entire clan heard the sounds that came from your house," the Uchiha grinned. Kushina's face turned the color of blood. She wanted to fall underground. "Well, let's ask, how is he doing?" Mikoto pressed. "I think it's wrong. And if Naruto finds out, he will be angry," Mikoto's friend denied. "No one will know, let's talk about how he's doing in bed." Her face was next to Kushina's face. "Or is everything bad there?" That's why you don't want to talk, the Uchiha said, teasing her friend. The Uzumaki did not like her friend's last words and she looked at the Uchiha indignantly. Mikoto, don't say that. The girl shouted. Everything is great in bed with him. I'll even say, super. Uzumaki said proudly. And how long does it last? Fugaku's wife continued to question. Enough. The girl exclaimed. She didn't want to continue this topic. Naruto learned from Akatsuchi that Kuratsuchi and Deidara were in the hospital. The Uzumaki ran towards it at full speed. He was very worried about them and blamed himself for the fact that they ended up in the hospital. A young and pretty girl with black hair sat at the registration desk. She was filling out some forms. She was pulled away from her work by a young guy with red hair. Hello, my name is Akata Hayuya, did you want something? The girl greeted. Oh, do you know which room Tsukuri Deidara and Kuratsuchi are in? Uzumaki blurted out. And who are you, exactly, for them? Akata asked. I am their mentor, the guy answered irritably. Akata took her tablet and started looking up the names of the patients. They are in the 10th ward, it's on the 2nd floor, Hayuya finally said. Thank you, the red-haired man thanked briefly before disappearing. Oh, what a handsome guy, the girl thought. Naruto quickly found the right room and flew into it. His sister was sleeping in a hospital bed, covered in bandages. Naruto was horrified to see Kuratsuchi in such a state. And not far from her lay Deidara, eating an apple. There were almost no wounds on the blonde. And I thought, you won't come, the blonde said, finishing his apple. Excuse me. I even forgot about the exam, Uzumaki said with his head down. Naruto was very ashamed in front of Deidara and Kuratsuchi. Yes, forget it. The main thing is that Kuratsuchi is okay. Tsukuri answered and looked at the sweetly sleeping girl. Who is she? Naruto asked a question. Deidara sked, remembering his girlfriend's opponent. It was Niji Hyuga. This scoundrel was going to kill Kuratsuchi. It's good that the Jounin intervened, the blonde said. Naruto clenched his fists and wanted to go kick Hyuga's ass, but he knew he shouldn't do that. Taking a chair, he sat down next to Kuratsuchi and took her hand. Day. Naruto called out to his friend. Yes? Tsukuri responded. I know you want revenge, but don't do it. Revenge will not lead to good things. Remember, only weak people take revenge. Uzumaki said instructively. Deidara nodded in understanding, but his desire to punch Niji in the face did not diminish. Naruto already realized that there was no way to celebrate. He already asked Akatsuchi, he won't go, he has some business to attend to. Maybe you can tell me about your girlfriend? We all know that you haven't slept in the living room for the last few days, Deidara said. Naruto was shocked. He didn't understand how they knew. But instantly his face took on a serious look. She and Kushina did not want to disclose their relationship yet. I don't understand what kind of girl you are talking about. All these days, I spent the night with Kushina. After all, we are just clanmates, so we spent all this time together, Uzumaki tried to excuse himself. Yeah. Did you walk hand in hand together? The blonde continued sarcastically. Deidara, Kushina and I are just friends, Uzumaki pretended to be a fool. But Akatsuchi told us that you walked with Kushina-san hand in hand in the forest and kissed. Tsukuri said triumphantly. Hey, Akatsuchi could have made a mistake, just think about it, Kushina is older than me, why does she even need me? Naruto answered, already on the verge of panic, realizing that if his friend continued, he would not be able to come up with an excuse. I think you're right, but tomorrow I'll still ask Akatsuchi-sensei. And lay down on the bed, the blonde began to fall asleep. Phew, it blew by, I hope he believed it, Naruto said to himself and, having created one clone, he sent it to warn Kushina that the holiday was cancelled and he would not be at home. While the women were talking with each other, Fugaku was wandering around in the hostess's room. Opening the bedside table with underwear, the Uchiha took the red panties and began to smell them. He was already excited and was about to sit on the bed, but the next moment he was already chained to the wall. Focusing his vision, Fugaku saw Naruto in front of him, and his eyes had a whirlpool pattern. What are these eyes? The Uchiha asked himself a question. The Uchiha wanted to unhook, but received a strong blow to the stomach. Falling to his knees, Fugaku received a knee to the face. He tried to do something, but he got more and more. Uzumaki was angry, he wanted to kill this animal. He couldn't believe that the head of the clan would do such things. Having been hit by an elbow, Fugaku fell to the floor with a broken face. What are you doing here? Uzumaki asked menacingly. That should not be of your concerns. Do you understand that you have just beaten the head of the clan? And you will definitely be screwed. Fugaku shouted. Naruto channeled chakra into his fist and wanted to strike, but at that moment women entered the room, their faces showing surprise. The head of the Uchiha clan was beaten by a 16-year-old teenager. What's going on here? They responded quickly. Fugaku's wife shouted. Naruto wanted to answer, but Fugaku stood up from his seat and said that there was no need to worry. Naruto-kun just thought that I broke into the house, and looked at Uzumaki. Am I right? Oh, yes, Fugaku-san said everything correctly, it's just a misunderstanding, the guy interjected. Fugaku and Mikoto went to the bath to wash off all the blood from Fugaku's face, leaving Kushina and Naruto alone. The girl looked furiously at her boyfriend. But no one noticed the open nightstand with underwear. Naruto didn't want to talk about what Fugaku was doing. After all, he didn't set him up. As they say, a favor for a service. Naruto, I told you that you need to go through the door. And don't appear with the help of a shunshin. Kushina raged and was about to strike, but Naruto quickly grabbed his lover's hand and, pulling her towards him, passionately kissed the scarlet-haired one. Kushina resisted at first, but then gave in. Where are your friends? Moving away from the guy's lips, the girl asked her question. Naruto explained that they were at the hospital and couldn't come, and Akatsuchi had things to do. It's a pity. Oh, I prepared so many delicious dishes. I hope that they will recover quickly. Uzumaki was upset. Next time we'll invite them to visit. But I want to say that I am a clone. And the original is in the hospital, Naruto admitted. I know, but I want you to stay with me today, Kushina replied. Fine. And hugged his girlfriend. Kushi, be careful with him. I do not like him. Uzumaki looked up and nodded to the guy. Naruto was wondering what to do with Akatsuchi. If he saw him with Kushina, then it's very bad. Akatsuchi might blurt out to someone else that he saw them together. And then unnecessary questions will begin. Now he was committing the most disgusting act of his life. Uzumaki wanted to erase these memories. Forgive me, Akatsuchi, but there is no other choice, Naruto thought. Leaving the house, Naruto slowly walked towards the exit of the block. Along the way they waved and said hello to him. Naruto was surprised at their behavior. The Uchihas always smiled at him and offered him various souvenirs. They treated him with respect and did not look at him with arrogance. With such thoughts, he left the block. Naruto had already guessed where Akatsuchi might be, namely in the hospital. Climbing onto the roof, Naruto began to run along them, jumping up and down. Some of the residents threw angry glances at him, some stranger was jumping on the roofs of their houses. On the way, he entered the Yamanaka store and bought a bouquet of flowers there. Having reached the hospital, Uzumaki wanted to pass by the registration desk, but he was caught red-handed. The girl who stood at the registration table yesterday responded to him. Naruto scared in displeasure, he hoped he wouldn't be noticed. If Akatsuchi is in Deidara's room, then everything will be bad. The Uzumaki turned towards the nurse with irritation. The girl immediately recognized yesterday's guest and smiled sweetly. "Hello," the girl greeted. "As I understand it, you came to visit your friends," the girl confirmed. "Yes, you understood everything correctly," Uzumaki said, hiding his irritation. "Can I go?" And lowered his head to the side. "Oh, yes," and took out a tablet. "But first you need to sign that you visited them." After taking a few steps, she gave him a pen. Naruto quickly signed and left as well. The girl wanted to say something else, but seeing that she didn't have time, she exhaled in frustration. Standing in front of the door, Naruto listened to the conversation between Deidara and Akatsuchi. He was a little worried and prayed to all the gods that Akatsuchi had not told anything yet. "Akatsuchi-sensei, I want to make sure of your words," seeing the questioning look, he continued. "Is it true that you saw Naruto and Kushina-san together?" The jounin grinned and wanted to answer, but Naruto flew into the room. Uzumaki was glad that Akatsuchi had not yet told, and now he had a chance to hang the wool over his ears. "Hello everyone." The red-haired man greeted and waved, to which Deidara and Akatsuchi nodded in greeting. "Naruto, if you came for Kuratsuchi, then I will upset you," the blonde said and looked at the peacefully sleeping girl. "Doctors say that she will regain consciousness only in 2 days." "I understand you, Uzumaki answered and put the bouquet in a vase. "But, I also sat down here behind Akatsuchi, I want to talk to him." "And what do you want to talk to me about, Naruto-kun?" Sasuke's assistant asked. "This conversation concerns only the two of us," Naruto said and began to walk towards the exit. "Keep up, Akatsuchi-san." "More than two speak out loud," the blonde said indignantly. Deidara didn't like that his friend was hiding something from him. "This doesn't work now," Uzumaki snapped. "Deidara-kun, don't worry, I'll be right there," Akatsuchi responded good-naturedly and followed the Tsuchikage's grandson. Naruto and Akatsuchi decided to move away from the chamber so that Deidara would not eavesdrop. This was the initiative of Uzumaki himself, and the jounin simply agreed with him. Walking down the corridor, neither of these two opened their mouths. Akatsuchi wondered what Naruto wanted to talk about that he had to talk to him personally. He heard from Kuratsuchi that Naruto and Deidara never hid anything from each other. They were like brothers. Having walked a long distance, Akatsuchi leaned on the wall and looked expectantly at the red-haired man. "I wanted to talk about Kushina and me, about the fact that you saw us in the forest," the guy blurted out. Akatsuchi laughed, now he was sure that these two were in a relationship. "Naruto, I understand everything, but you could have immediately told me not to talk about that day." "I wouldn't tell anyone," the jounin said. Stopping laughing. "Thank you, Akatsuchi-san," and closed his eyes. "But I want you to forget about that day and our conversation forever." Akatsuchi wanted to say something, but, looking into Naruto's open eyes, he stood there like a statue. Naruto erased the memories of that day and their current conversation. "Akatsuchi-san, tell Deidara that I will visit him this evening and I won't be alone," and disappeared into the whirlpool. "Yeah," was all the jounin could say. He didn't understand what he was doing here. Naruto decided to take a little walk around the village. Walking through the park, Naruto noticed the beauty around him. Uzumaki noticed that some trees grew strangely. Some are straight up, others with curves, but he didn't bother his head with such thoughts. He just wanted to enjoy nature. So he walked around the park for about half an hour and he wanted to sit on a bench. Not far from him there was a group where everyone was the same age as Deidara. Noticing Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura waved at him. Naruto didn't stand aside and waved to them too. The Hokage's son emerged from the crowd. Menma walked towards our hero, his hands in his pocket. "Hello, Naruto-san," Namake's Uchiha greeted and extended his hand for a handshake. "Hello, Menma," and shook his hand. Instantly, the space around Naruto changed and now he stood in a dark room in front of a huge golden cage. Uzumaki didn't understand anything at first, but sensing strong hatred from the cage, he carefully looked there. Naruto thought it was a genjutsu and interrupted the flow of the spell, but without receiving any results, he began to think about where he was. If this is Menma's joke, I'll kick his ass, Naruto thought angrily. Is anyone here? Uzumaki shouted. Two scarlet eyes flashed in the darkness, as if they were looking into the person's soul. Naruto felt uncomfortable with this look and took a step back. Did this chakra really come from him? Why, then, at the first meeting, did I not feel it? Kyubi asked himself questions. And he is also Kushina's son, how interesting. Who are you? Uzumaki asked, stuttering a little. He was already starting to get nervous. He is somewhere unknown and standing in front of some creature. Any person would be scared. Out of the darkness came a large red fox with 9 tails, which staggered in different directions. Naruto was sick of this. He is now standing in front of the Kyubi himself. He didn't know what to do. Run, but where? Yes, and where should he run? He doesn't even know where he is and what kind of place it is. Don't be afraid of me, little man, I won't touch you, I have something to talk to you, the fox's benevolent voice tried to say. What? Where am I anyway? What am I doing here? Uzumaki started shouting. Kurama hit the cage, he didn't like that the man was yelling at him. Kyubi lay down on his paws and began to say that he needed to calm down, and then he would tell him everything. Having calmed down, Naruto looked at Kyubi, indicating that he wanted him to tell him everything. Kyubi explained that they are now in the subconscious of his Jinchuriki, that is, Menma. Naruto was a little surprised, he didn't know that Menma could keep this monster within himself. Kyubi, come directly. What am I doing here? Uzumaki began right off the bat. In you, I felt the chakra of Izao Uzumaki, the first person who signed a contract with my summons, the 9 tails answered calmly. Naruto wasn't even surprised. He knew that Kyubi was the creator of the fox summoning, Kaido told him about it. But he still could not understand why the fox needed him. So you know him too, it's not surprising, the red-haired man said, calmed down and sat down on the water. Where? The fox growled. Only the one who signed the contract with the foxes could find out about it. If he knows, then this means that this boy signed a summoning contract, which the 9 tails did not like very much. Why didn't they discuss it with him? Kyubi was angry at his friends. Calm down. I learned about you from Kaido, he told me everything about you, the fox tried to calm Uzumaki down. Because he felt an increasing aura of anger. They didn't even discuss with me the question of who is worthy of summoning foxes, thought Kurama. Naruto already understood what the Biju wanted to talk to him about. I'm ahead of your question, he said and stood up from his seat. Now I'll answer you why I have Izao's chakra, and paused. Because I am his reincarnation, Uzumaki said proudly. I knew it, Kurama thought. I see, the redhead answered calmly. But I have one request. And which one? The young man asked with a smile. Since you made a contract with the summoning of foxes, and I am its creator, I want you to free me. And I will let you sign the agreement personally by Kyubi no Yoko himself. Naruto almost choked on this request. Not a bit fat, is it? Do you seriously think I'll do this? If I do this, then Menma will die, and I don't want to start a conflict, and then a war could start because of me. And because of the war, a lot of innocent people will die, Naruto explained. Do you think it's nice for me and my brothers and sisters to be locked up? Do we enjoy being sealed away and used as weapons? The fox became furious. You don't understand this, you're just like everyone else. The 9 tails thundered and hit the cage with all his anger. You're right, I will never understand your feelings, but I don't consider you a weapon. But understand, not all people think of you as stupid monsters who have no feelings. They are simply afraid of you because of your strength, and that's why you are sealed, said Uzumaki, and, approaching the cage, he looked decisively at Biju. Someday, I will come up with a seal that will remove the Biju from the Jinchuriki and prevent the wearer from dying. But this will happen in a few years, and first we need to achieve peace. It is also necessary for all countries to sign a peace treaty and live in harmony, Naruto thought. Stop talking nonsense. This will never happen, and I don't believe you. The fox growled and kicked his interlocutor out of his subconscious. Naruto Uzumaki, you are an interesting person, Kurama said to himself. He didn't feel the lie in Naruto's words, but he wasn't going to trust him right away. Returning to the real world, Naruto saw all of Menma's friends in front of him. They looked at Naruto worriedly. Uzumaki had already stood there for several minutes. Naruto-san, are you okay? You could hear the worry in his voice. Don't worry, was all Naruto said before disappearing, leaving the genin uncomprehending. We need to talk to Kaito, Naruto thought. In the forest clearing, space began to distort, and our main character appeared in a red whirlpool. Having looked around to see if there were any extra people, he began to make unknown seals. Hitting the ground, a column of smoke appeared, and a small red fox came out. Kaito looked at the serious Naruto. Why did you call, Naruto-kun? Asked the fox. Naruto said nothing and began making seals. Using Fuinjutsu, he created an illusory barrier. Kaito already realized that the conversation would not be easy. Kaito, today I met Kyubi, your patron, said Uzumaki. Where is he now? What did he say to you? How did you see him? The fox bombarded him with questions. Calm down, Kaito. Fox stopped Naruto. Like all Biju, he is sealed in vessels. I saw him in the subconscious of the Jinchuriki, he called me himself, and sat down on the grass. He sensed Izeo's chakra in me. Ah, I see, answered the fox. You didn't tell me what you were talking about. Well, to be honest, it's nothing, he said and waved it off with his hands. He asked me to free him from the Jinchuriki, and he laughed, remembering his request. He's too arrogant. Kaito hit Naruto with his tails, he didn't like that he was insulting his patron. Sam, you're impudent, the fox snorted. Don't call him that. Naruto raised his hands, indicating that there would be no more. And he remembered why he called him. And you called me for this? I understand everything, but you distracted me from my work, said the summoning creature, and irritation was heard in his voice. No. That's not the whole reason for your coming, Naruto replied. You know about one technique that can be used to extract a Biju from a Jinchuriki without letting the bearer die. Kaito thought about it, he had heard about this technique somewhere. Only my memory was very bad. Naruto, why do you need this? Asked the fox. I'm just curious. I promised Kyubi that I would find a technique that would save him and his sisters and brothers from suffering, Uzumaki explained. That is, you want, the fox's eyes widened. Naruto nodded calmly, signaling that Kaito understood everything correctly. The smartest decision was to go to the sage. Naruto agreed to his proposal and went to the fox world. They appeared inside the temple in front of the sage. Seeing Naruto, Hizo was surprised and greeted him. By what fate did you come to us? The sage asked with a good-natured smile. Naruto walked to the front and bowed in honor. He began to tell his story. Keizo got angry at the people who sealed Kurama and began to think about a technique. He was very surprised that Naruto wanted to save Kurama. The fox did not think that the man would help Biju. A technique that can extract the Biju without letting the Jinchuriki die, thought the sage. If my memory serves me correctly, then I heard about this technique. With the help of his tail, he began to rummage through the shelf. Naruto was happy, now he can extract all the Biju. But the most difficult task remains, to achieve peace. Naruto wasn't such a fool, he wouldn't immediately extract the Biju. He doesn't need this yet, but he will in the future. Keizo took out a huge scroll. Naruto was already surprised, now he was wondering what was wrong with this scroll. The sage placed it on the floor in front of Naruto. Naruto began to read the message on the scroll. Message: Hello, my name is Akira Uzumaki, and I am the first Uzumaki, if you didn't know. So if we met, let's get to the point. If you are reading this, then the technique is not finished. The technique is called Funjitsu Kensaku Biju. With its help you can safely remove the Biju, etc. After reading the message, Naruto began to study the technique itself. Uzumaki was disappointed in himself, even he, who had studied the S-rank seals, could not decipher the symbols on the scroll. In some lines, the characters were completely absent. This is the first time I've seen such symbols. Naruto thought nervously. All this time, Hizo himself was reading the scroll. Remembering Akira, he cursed himself for his stupidity. And looked at Naruto with a disappointed look. Even Akira himself did not complete this technique. After his death, Kurama gave this scroll to his foxes and gave them all the information he had about the Uzumaki. Hizo and his brothers sat and studied the technique all night every day. Even after thousands of years, he was unable to decipher all the symbols on the scroll. Izao also took on Akira's technique, but after sitting for several years, he gave up on it. Naruto-kun, Hizo called out to Kaido's student. Naruto raised his gaze and looked at the sage with a questioning gaze. Naruto, I feel sorry for you, but you can't finish this technique, he breathed out. You see, we've been trying to figure it out for several years now, but as you can see, nothing worked out, so don't fool your head with unnecessary problems. The sage wanted to take the scroll, but he was stopped by Naruto's strong hands. Wait, Hizo-san. Stopping the fox, Uzumaki said. Give me a chance. Maybe I can finish it. Just give me time, the red-haired man asked. With a click, the fox removed his tail and allowed Naruto to study her further. You'll see when I finish it, Uzumaki said, getting up. Then you will take back your words, and sealed it in a spatial pocket. Naruto-kun, how will you complete the technique? The fox asked with interest. If you don't even understand the symbols. Don't worry, Hizo-san, I will go to the ruins of my clan and find all the information available to me, Uzumaki replied. Hizo nodded at him. And in his heart he hoped that everything would work out for him. He hadn't seen Kurama for a long time. He wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with him, like the good old days. After saying goodbye to everyone, Naruto used reverse summoning. Naruto appeared in the same clearing. Removing the barrier, he headed towards the Uchiha quarter. Instead of reaching with normal steps, Naruto used Shunshin. He appeared near the hallway, took off his shoes and walked into the house. A very tasty smell of food could be smelled from the kitchen, so Naruto headed there. Kushina stood near the stove and cut carrots, while humming songs. Naruto smiled when he saw his beloved. Quietly creeping up, he hugged her from behind. Kushina gasped as she felt Naruto's hands on her waist. Well, did you visit your friend? The girl asked, throwing her head over the guy's shoulder. Yeah, Naruto replied. But, I promised that I would visit him in the evening, are you with me? Yes, I'll go with you to the ends of the world, the girl answered with a smile. But first, I'll prepare the soup, and she left the guy's embrace. Then, I'll take a shower, he kissed the girl on the nose and ran away. The girl just smiled after Naruto. In the evening, Naruto and Kushina went to the hospital. The girl poured soup into a food container. She wanted to treat Deidara to her dish. When they got to the hospital, they were allowed through without any problems. Hello, Deidara, here we are, the Tsuchikage grandson greeted his friend. Deidara's mood instantly lifted. He lay on the bed all day and did nothing. Sometimes Akatsuchi came to see him, but only for a few minutes. How he wanted to talk to someone. He sometimes talked to the sleeping Kuratsuchi, telling her stories. After greeting the blonde, Kushina handed him the soup. Deidara thanked the red-haired girl and began to devour both cheeks. Kushina-san, this is divine, Tsukuri praised her. If you want, I will eat whatever you cook. Thank you, Deidara-kun, she said and smiled sweetly. The three talked until the morning. Naruto and Kushina decided to stay in the hospital to keep Deidara company. Kushina agreed with the head doctor that they would be allowed to stay. In a dim room, a pale-faced man sat on a throne. Also, his amber-colored eyes outlined in purple circles are clearly visible, thanks to which he looks even more snake-like. His thick black hair reaches to his lower back. Sometimes he tied them in a long ponytail. There is a tattoo on his arm, a symbol of concluding a pact with snakes. He wore a white kimono with blue trim and mesh armor underneath. Orochimaru has a complex personality that is most often described as squirming by a large number of people, including Tsunade and Jiraiya. Orochimaru grew up despising the fragility of human life and how it affected those still living, resulting in his life's goal becoming immortality. To do this, Orochimaru conducted experiments on people to determine what changes the human body could withstand and adopt the unique abilities of the test subject. After achieving this goal, Orochimaru set out to become worthy of the title of Supreme Being, unable to die and thus able to achieve his secondary goal of learning every technique in the world, which resulted in a large number of human casualties. Now Sannin was waiting for a report from his student. The door opened with a creak, and a young ninja with white hair and round glasses entered the room. In his hands he held a small folder with documents. Approaching his teacher, the white-haired man bowed as a sign of respect. "Well, what about Kabuto?" the brunette asked in a hissing voice. You could hear the interest in his voice. During the battle between the team from Konoha and the team from Sound 1. According to Dosu, the heaviest of them was Menma Namikaze Uchiha. He is a very versatile shinobi. He can be in attack and defense. Sasuke Uchiha also showed himself well, but their teammate didn't show herself at all, answered the bespectacled man. Interesting, Sannin thought. Now he was wondering who among them might be the ideal vessel for him. So he thought until he remembered one interesting person. Kabuto. What about that Uzumaki? If you mean Naruto Uzumaki, then I learned quite a lot of interesting information about him. He picked up a piece of data. Naruto Uzumaki, son of Kushina Uzumaki, the former Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, and adopted grandson of the third Tsuchikage. The elite Jounin of the Stone fought with Kisame Hoshigaki himself, and even survived the fight. His arsenal includes an unknown Dojutsu, a huge supply of chakra and perfect control of it. He can use the elements of Katon and Raitun. Apparently he can summon bijou chains. It is still unknown how many pieces he can use. And he is the best in Fuinjutsu, so far. After finishing reading, Kabuto gave the sheet of paper into Sannin's hands. You're interesting, Naruto-kun. Orochimaru licked his lips. Sannin took the data of Menma, Naruto, and Sasuke, and began to compare them with each other. And which of them did you choose, Orochimaru-sama? Sannin's student asked with interest. Menma, as I know, is the son of this Hokage and the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. If I try to take over his body, then the fox sealed in him may interfere with me, and took another piece of paper. Next is Sasuke, the youngest son of the head of the Uchiha clan. Has a Sharingan with 3 tomo. But I won't capture him for personal reasons. Kabuto was surprised by Sannin's words. He had never seen his sensei refuse such a choice. Sannin took the last sheet in his hands. And so our last one is Naruto Uzumaki. According to him, I like everything about him. Throwing the sheet, he looked at Kabuto. I still don't understand you, Orochimaru-sama, who will be your future vessel? And why did you abandon Sasuke? Kabuto, I want Naruto Uzumaki to be my new body, Sannin answered the first question. And I refused Sasuke because of the contract. Treaty? The white-haired man asked in surprise. Yes, a deal. A few days ago, I made an agreement with Uchiha Fugaku. He helps me capture Naruto, and I give him the cells of the first Hokage. Because of the contract, I cannot touch Sasuke-kun, and the whole clan will hunt me, but I don't need that. And we must not forget about Itachi Uchiha, Sannin explained. It's clear. Does he know about the attack? And why does he need Hashirama-sama's cells? Sannin's student asked. He doesn't know about the attack, I'm not a fool to tell him about it. Our battle will take place far from Konoha. This idiot wants Shursui Uchiha's eyes so he can use Kotoa Mitsukumi to subdue Kushina. I don't know what kind of love triangle they have there, but I'm okay with it. Let him do what he wants. Hashirama's cells are needed for the eyes to take root. After all, they are not relatives, and the cells of the first are ideal for this, Orochimaru explained. Ah, that's how it is, the guy thought. Orochimaru-sama, maybe we won't attack Konoha, we don't want to lose so many strong shinobi. And how will you destroy the village and fight Naruto Uzumaki? I should have brought you up to date a long time ago, Sannin said wearily. Suna will help us in the attack, the fourth Kazekage is under my control. While the sound and sand ninjas are attacking, I will be on the outskirts of Konoha. There will be a battle there. What will happen to Race? How should I know? Sannin asked Kabuto and raised one eyebrow. The main thing is that Konoha suffers very badly. Sannin hated his native village with all his soul. When chosen for the post of fourth Hokage, his sensei turned his back on him and handed him over. But he did everything for the sake of Konoha, all these experiments were supposed to benefit the village. When he became a renegade, he wanted to take revenge on Sarutobi Hiruzen, but upon learning of his death, his anger was redirected towards Konoha. You are incredible, Orochimaru-sama. The young ninja praised his teacher. At the praise, Orochimaru smiled ominously. Kabuto, remember one main detail. The attack will begin when Naruto and Fugaku are far from Konoha so that the Uchiha does not suspect anything, said the Sannin. How do we know that they are already far from Konoha? Asked Kabuto. When feathers fall from the sky. This will be a sign, answered the snake Sannin. Kabuto nodded in understanding and left the room, leaving Orochimaru alone. An old man with a cane walked through the dark tunnels. Half of his body was covered in bandages. He walked with an upright posture and looked like what a stately, handsome sheik might look like, according to popular belief. For his age, such posture was surprising. There was no emotion on his face. And this was not surprising, because everyone knew Shimura Danzo, or the head of the ANBU route. In his youth, Danzo was a fiery and energetic ninja who fiercely wanted to prove himself. After much internal struggle, he decided to volunteer to buy time for his teammates, but Sarutobi Hiruzen beat him to it by volunteering first. Even before this incident and until his death, he often envied Hiruzen, believing that he was always one step ahead, while Danzo himself remained in his shadow. Danzo never used soft words such as friend, as he did not want to rely on or be dependent on anyone. As an adult, Danzo was a completely calm, cool and reserved person who did not allow his emotions to surface. Due to growing up during wartime, Danzo's opinions differed from those of the Hokage, as he felt that the interests of the village should come before everything, even ethics and morality. After the death of his only friend, the desire to become Hokage completely disappeared. Danzo only realized after his death that Hiruzen was the only person who understood him and regretted his death. But his composure and indifference remained with him. Shimura sometimes took students to himself, he trained them as ANBU fighters. He did all this for the sake of his native village. Standing in front of the door, Danzo pulled the door handle. Entering the spacious office, he saw very important persons of Konoha. Walking around the table, he sat down in the place assigned to him. Very important people were sitting around the table. They sat with thoughtful faces. No one explained to them why the meeting of clans was held. The Hokage looked at everyone present, wondering if everyone had arrived. Minato motioned for the meeting to begin. "Why did you call us, Hokage-sama?" asked a mature woman. She has an animalistic face. There are red fang-shaped markings on her cheeks, symbolizing her affiliation with the Inuzuka clan, in addition to markings around her eyes and lipstick on her lips. "Yes, I'm also wondering why you gathered us in the middle of the night," said a man with brown hair and snow-white eyes without pupils. Everyone silently looked at the yondaime Minato Namikaze, waiting for his answer. "I called you together to discuss the future life of Uzumaki Kushina," Minato answered all the questioning glances. "And the second reason for our gathering is our military power. Over the past few years, Konoha's military power has declined greatly." Fugaku immediately became serious and began to listen carefully. After all, now they will talk about his Kushina. The others began to whisper among themselves. What do you mean by the excuse of discussing the future life of Uzumaki Kushina?" asked a question, men with black hair. On the right side of his face were two scars that were probably his most notable appearance. Minato pulled out a small stack of paper from the inside pocket of his cloak. "During the investigation initiated by me, my people found out that all this time there was a very powerful block against bookmarks on Kushina Uzumaki." After his words, everyone became even more furious. "I don't understand you, Hokage-sama, what are you getting at?" asked the Uchiha. Minato wanted to answer his friend, but Danzo stopped him, showing that he himself will explain everything to everyone. Minato nodded in gratitude. "The Hokage means that we need to break this block and turn Uzumaki into a sao. After all, Uzumaki children become very strong warriors. And if Kushina gives birth to children from all clans, then we will have very strong shinobi in our hands," Shimura explained to everyone. Fugaku froze in shock as Danzo's words flashed through his head. He quickly thought about how to save Kushina. After all, he didn't want anyone to touch his Kushina. The chief strategist of Konoha, Shikaku Nara, jumped up from his seat. He was outraged by Danzo's words and the fact that Namikaze agreed with them. In his opinion, it was selfish on Minato's part. "Hokage-sama, this is wrong. This is too selfish. Do you think Kushina wants this?" Nara exclaimed. "Did you at least ask her? Why do you decide everything for her?" Minato hit the table to cool Nara down. Shikaku sat down in his seat, glaring at Minato. One of the elders of Konoha, Yutatane Koharu, stood up from her seat. "What do you mean, wrong? Kushina belongs only to Konoha and she is our property. We will do whatever we want with her," she shouted throughout the office in her squeaky voice. "Or do you have something against the Hokage?" "No," Nara answered. "But don't you think this is too much? We already betrayed her clan once." "Shikaku, I already told you everything," the old woman shouted at the head of the Nara clan. Shikaku fell silent. He saw no point in arguing with this woman. He knew she was beaten on the head. Fugaku stood up from his seat and looked at Minato with a serious expression. "Hokage-sama, maybe Kushina will give birth, only from the Uchihas?" asked Fugaku. Minato looked at the Uchiha with confusion. He couldn't understand why Fugaku was so desperate to take Kushina away. The head of the Inuzuka clan stood up from her chair. "What did you eat? Why should she give birth to you? My boys want this Uzumaki bitch too." And other heads of clans began to support her. "Watch your tongue," the Uchiha warned. Fugaku, we have already discussed everything. Kushina will give birth from all the clans, and this is not discussed. Shouted at his friend the Hokage. And why do you need it? You have a wife. The Uchiha waved it off and sat down in his seat, under Tsum's smirking gaze. The Uchiha strained all his brain convolutions very much. He urgently needed to save Kushina from the clutches of Hyuga, Inuzuka, Akimichi and others. How do we break the block? Asked the silent Yamanaka. After all, even I haven't noticed him all these years. According to my calculations, the block should subside in 2 months, the blonde answered with a smile. How many children should she give birth to in total? Asked a tall, fat man with long, spiky red hair and purple markings on his cheeks, symbolizing his membership in the Akimichi clan. He wears samurai armor, underneath which is a black suit with the kanji for shoku, food, on it. The thought that he would have such a beauty only made him more excited. At least 10. Minato answered. Aha, I think my guys will be happy, some Inuzuka shouted and started barking like a real dog. And my clanmates will be delighted. Hayashi Hyuga said. Listening to their conversation, Fugaku seethed inside with anger. What will happen to her after this? Shikaku asked. I'll give it to Danzo-sama. In the Root Umbu laboratory, experiments will be carried out on her. With the help of her blood, we will make drugs for the ninja. What will happen to her in the future is up to Danzo-sama to decide. Shikaku was horrified by all this. Nara couldn't believe Minato's words. He wanted to save Kushina, but he might be considered a traitor and killed right on the spot. And I didn't want to set up the clan. In the future, Kushina will become a tank for my ANBU, because they also want to relax after the mission, Danzo said and laughed like the last crazy person. Everyone laughed except Fugaku and Shikaku. They had no time for jokes. Everyone was in their own thoughts. I, Minato Namikaze, declare the end of the meeting. You can go. Almost everyone left in a good mood. Having reached his house, Fugaku looked at Kushina's house, where the lights were still on. My dear, I will save you, thought the Uchiha. After the meeting of clans, Shikaku left in a very bad mood. If it were his will, he would rip out everyone's tongues. Yes, he knew that the top of Konoha simply put bookmarks on Kushina so that she would be loyal to the village, and Nara turned a blind eye to this. After all, it will be better for Konoha. But making her an incubator was beyond the bounds of humanity for Shikaku. He didn't understand how Minato did this, because he himself has a child and a wife. And he was very disappointed in his friends. He thought that Inoichi and Chuza would support him, but in fact they sided with the Hokage. He was also surprised that Fugaku was against the idea of the Hokage. He thought that the Uchiha would agree with Minato. After all, they are his best friends. Nara was in no hurry to unite with the Uchiha yet because of his good connection with the Hokage. He walked the whole way with a gloomy face. Nara thought about how to save Kushina without telling her anything. If Uzumaki finds out, she will create a fuss in which innocent people may get hurt. Shikaku knew that Kushina was a stubborn and impulsive person, which is why Nara did not want to tell her anything. With the help of his good sensory abilities, he clearly sensed the ANBU who had been watching him all this time. And now you definitely can't tell Kushina anything, because the ANBU will track his every move and will report everything to the Hokage. So the Hokage doesn't trust me, Nara thought and looked in the direction where the ANBU should have been. What should I do? If I do something suspicious, the Hokage will obviously find out about it. Yes, I don't want to expose my family and clan. With such thoughts he reached his home. Shikaku couldn't think of anything other than to tell everything to the second Uzumaki in the village. Nara had already heard rumors that Kushina was dating a stone shinobi. But Shikaku didn't believe it. He would be glad if Kushina were in a relationship with Naruto, because, as he heard, Uzumaki would never leave his own in trouble. He hoped that Naruto would listen to him and help him with his plan. It was difficult to call Shikaku and Kushina friends, at most just acquaintances. At the academy they didn't even really communicate, they just exchanged words. Like, hello, and, how are you? Nara was not interested in Kushina, her character immediately repulsed him. It was difficult for him to be around noisy people. When he saw that Kushina was being teased, he simply ignored it and went about his business. Shikaku became the Hokage's assistant at an early age and he was free to study the entire Konoha archive. He found a lot of documents on Kushina's case. At an early age, they wanted to do a lot of dirty things to her, but this did not happen, because then reasonable leaders sat at the head of the clans and they were against anything being done to the little girl. Shikaku then felt sorry for the Uzumaki. He didn't understand how Kushina held on all this time. Even he would not have lived for several years under the yoke of the attitude of the residents and constant ridicule. That day he began to respect her, but he had no intention of contacting her. Shikaku knew all the dirty deeds of Hiruzen and Minato, but was silent about it. On the threshold of his home, he was met by his wife. You could tell from her face that she was worried. The woman approached her husband and took off his outer clothing. Taking off his shoes, Shikaku silently walked into the house. He didn't want to talk to anyone right now. His wife followed him. Having warmed up his food, Shikaku silently began to eat, while ignoring his wife. Kushina was greatly alarmed by her husband's behavior. She had never seen him like this. Shikaku, how was the meeting? Are you okay? The woman asked with concern in her voice. Shikaku lazily looked at his wife and exhaled tiredly. Everything is as usual, Nara answered and continued to eat. Nara did not want to share information, he did not want to involve his wife in this matter. Shikaku, quickly tell me what happened. I've never seen you like this. Shikamaru's mother demanded menacingly. Kushina, I'm fine, don't worry, the head of the Nara clan said again. Is it true? His wife asked again. Shikaku nodded, munching on some pasta. Kushina calmed down a little, but was still worried. It seemed to her that her husband was not telling her something. How is Shikamaru? The man asked, removing the plate from the table. Well, as usual, I was at the training ground all day, training with my team, the woman answered. I see, and he was about to light a cigarette, but he got hit on the top of his head. How many times have I told you? Never smoke in the house. If you want to smoke, go outside. The woman shouted. Don't yell, the brunette said irritably. Kushina pointed to the door, Nara lazily stood up and walked out. Just don't stay long, the woman said after her husband. Taking a cigarette, he lit it and began to smoke. Taking a deep breath, he exhaled some smoke from his mouth. After taking a few more puffs, he was about to enter the house. But, he was stopped by Minato, who appeared in front of him in a clap of thunder. Hokage-sama, did you want something? Hiding his contempt, Nara asked. Minato silently and without hesitation punched Shikaku in the solar plexus. Bent over, Nara received a strong blow to the head and lost consciousness. Slowly opening his eyelids, Shikaku found himself in a dim room, chained to a chair. He immediately realized that these were the tricks of the Hokage. Did he really find out? Nara asked himself a question. And he began to look with his eyes for the person who dragged him. Minato and Inoichi appeared from the shadows and they both began to walk towards Nara. How do we understand this, Hokage-sama? The man asked angrily. I'm the one asking the questions here. Namikaze shouted at Shikaku and deliciously prescribed bream. Now, answer me, my dear friend, the Hokage said mockingly. Were you going to help Kushina Uzumaki? Just answer honestly. No, I didn't mean to help her, the man couldn't finish, getting hit in the face with his knee. The answer is incorrect. Answer me, Creature, were you going to help this bitch? Minato was angry. No way. Nara stood his ground. Minato began beating Shikaku furiously. He never tolerated those lying to his face. The Hokage beat the head of the Nara clan with all cruelty. No matter how much the Hokage beat, Shikaku stood his ground. If you do, he looked at Inoichi. You can start. Yamanaka looked at his friend's bloody face. Inoichi, how could you? We were best friends. Why, cough, did you betray me? Do you remember, in childhood, we swore an oath to each other that we would never, let's betray each other. Shikaku said, periodically coughing and spitting blood. Stop talking nonsense. This was all a long time ago. I'm doing all this for the sake of Konoha. You are now a threat to my village. Yamanaka got angry. Am I a threat? Don't be ridiculous, Nara grinned through the pain. Enough chatter. The Hokage intervened in the conversation of two, now former, friends. Inoichi, get started. Yes, Hokage-sama. Having knocked out his former friend, Yamanaka began to delve into Shikaku's memory. Once satisfied, Inoichi left Nara's head. Minato looked at his subordinate and silently asked the result. Everything was as you told Hokage-sama. Shikaku really wanted to help Kushina Uzumaki, said the head of the Yamanaka clan. I see. Namikaze looked at his work assistant. Bookmark silence and hostility towards Kushina, and loyalty to the Hokage. Everything will be fine now, Hokage-sama. Inoichi began the process. When Shikaku was bookmarked, Minato teleported him straight to the bedroom. Yoshina did not notice anything and slept soundly. Fugaku stood on the porch of the house and sipped a glass of sake. He needed to relieve stress, and he didn't see a better way other than alcohol. He could have taken all his stress out on Mikoto, but she was already asleep. For Fugaku, Mikoto was a thing, he simply used her. Now he was thinking about how to negotiate with Minato. He wouldn't want Kushina jumping on another man. Taking a sip, he looked at the brightly shining moon. Fugaku completely ignored the new guest who was standing behind him. Minato cleared his throat to get Fugaku's attention. He came here to have a serious talk with his friend. Fugaku turned around and looked at the Hokage with a sarcastic smile. The Uchiha offered him sake, but Minato refused. Why did you come, Minato? Fugaku asked and began to drink sake from the neck of the bottle. Let's be clear right away, the Hokage said in a steely voice. Why do you care so much about Kushina? What do you care? The Uchiha asked, chuckling. Or did you fall in love with her? Minato flashed his blue eyes angrily and grabbed Fugaku by the collar, pushing him against the wall. Are you deaf? The blonde growled. Why did you so fiercely want to take Kushina into your clan at the clan meeting today? And why didn't you support me? Fugaku pushed the Hokage away from him and activated his Sharingan. He looked at the blonde man angrily. I already answered you. If you touch Kushina, I will arrange the second Kyuubi to come. The Uchiha growled. Watch your words. Namikaze barked. Do you really feel something for her? Does Mikoto know about this? My personal life should not worry you. Answered the head of the Uchiha clan. I am the Hokage of this village and I care about the life of every resident, and approaching Fugaku, he looked into scarlet eyes with 3 tomo. Why did you want to take Kushina? Answer me, for what? Do you really want to save her? I won't tell you anything. The man snapped. So we started talking like this. Namikaze brought the head of the Uchiha clan to his knees with one blow. I'll tell you for the last time, if you tell anything to Kushina or Naruto Uzumaki, then there will be nothing left of your clan. You're funny, Minato, the Uchiha said, holding his stomach. You have fallen in my eyes, there is nothing left of you but cruelty. I already told you, if I see Kushina next to me, I'll slaughter your entire clan. Namikaze warned. Just think carefully, Fugaku, why do you need unnecessary problems? Live your life, and just forget about Kushina forever. And yes, one wrong action towards my family, I will not leave anything from your clan. Minato, can we come to an agreement? He stood up from his knees and looked at his friend with a grin. What do you mean, let's agree? The Hokage asked with confusion. Well, look, Kushina gives birth to all the clans, but she won't sleep with everyone. Fugaku suggested an idea for Minato. Well, how? Are you saying that she will self-fertilize? Without sexual intercourse? Asked the fourth. Yeah, so, do you agree? No. Namikaze answered coldly. We have already discussed everything at the council. Minato, think for yourself. You'll ruin her whole life, but with my plan, at least she won't suffer so much, the Uchiha continued. Do you hear yourself, what are you talking about? Turned his back to him. I'm warning you one last time, if you tell Kushina about my plan, I'll destroy you on the spot. And with the help of Hiration he disappeared, leaving a dissatisfied Fugaku. Damn you, Minato! The Uchiha shouted into the void. Minato appeared at his house. Taking off his sandals and his coat, he walked into the living room and plopped down on the sofa. Exhaling, he looked at his wife with a smile. Kimi, as always, was very beautiful. How was the meeting? The Uchiha asked affectionately. Well, we discussed Konoha's military power and figured out how to improve it, the blonde answered his wife's question. So what did you come up with? The woman asked a question and began to massage her husband. It's quite simple, we'll make a sow out of Kushina. She gives birth to all the clans and we have very strong shinobi, the Hokage said proudly. The Uchiha stopped the massage and looked at her husband in shock. She thought she had heard it all. Repeat. I didn't hear. In short, Kushina will become an incubator, Namikaze explained. Kiyomi prescribed a slap to Minato. She was horrified by her husband's idea. Yes, she knew that Minato did not like Kushina, but to make such a thing out of her. The Uchiha couldn't believe it. Oh, for what? The Hokage asked, grabbing the sore spot. Are you completely crazy? Do you even understand what you're doing? Minato, leave her alone. May she live a good and peaceful life. She's not your thing. The girl shouted at her husband. It's good that Menma wasn't at home today and he was visiting Kiba. So, she could afford to shout at her husband. I'm doing all this for the sake of the village. The blonde man shouted at his wife in response. Minato, you're getting worse and worse every year. You don't have a drop of humanity left in you, the Uchiha said in horror. I'm fine, Namikaze chuckled like the last idiot. If you touch Kushina, I won't set foot in this house. These words had a little effect on Minato. Darling, what are you doing? Namikaze asked, a little panicking. He didn't want to lose his precious wife. If you want, I'll fix everything. That's right, tomorrow you will go and make sure everything is fine with Kushina. You understood me? And I won't tell her about what you were going to do to her, the woman softened her tone. I understand everything, Fourth scratched his head. Okay, let's go to bed already, the Uchiha said in a sleepy voice. Minato said that he would stay a little longer. Kiyomi, without answering, went to the second floor. And you won't know anything anyway, the Hokage said with a sly smile. When Kiyomi was already fast asleep, Minato placed several bookmarks given to her by Inoichi. Naruto was lying on the bed with his girlfriend. Kushina was on top, and Naruto, grabbing her by the waist, told a story from his life. Kushina listened very carefully and had a happy smile on her face. Did you really push Oanoki to such an extent, the girl said, chuckling at Naruto's story. Oh, it's a pity I didn't see how you grew up as a child. She became a little sad. Kushi, I told you so much, and looked into her eyes. Let's not remember the past. But, she wanted to say, but she was interrupted by Naruto, who kissed her. Uzumaki very tenderly kissed the girl's soft lips. Having pulled away, Kushina pressed herself into the chest of the guy with red cheeks. They lay like that for about 20 minutes, talking along the way. Kushi, maybe you can tell me, why did you live with the Hokage? Naruto asked his girlfriend. Kushina stood up with Naruto and hesitated a bit. She didn't know where to start the story. Taking one of her boyfriend's hands, she held him tightly because Naruto might do something rash. Okay, then listen to me very carefully. She looked decisively at Naruto.